Thankfully, nobody was killed in this attack, but this will raise serious questions about security, won't it? It happened, after all, at the very point where 5 people were killed by a terrorist last year.
I mean, I think anything like this that takes place where we see, obviously, security breached in some way, you will see a sort of immediate questions being asked about how this could happen and how we can make sure it does not happen again. So to some degree, it's not surprising that we're going to see those questions asked. However, I think that, the rapidity with which police appeared on the scene, in contrast to the incident we saw last year in March, where it was the armed response unit of a minister who happened to be nearby who were able to tackle the individual involved in that incident. Here we have Westminster's armed police who leapt on the situation very quickly. So clearly we can see that, the security response time has improved around Westminster in the past year. And then the fact that the individual was not able to get sort of anywhere near or beyond the barriers that have been erected around Westminster is again a reflection of the fact that, these barriers have been put into place and to some degree are keeping the site slightly safer.
The Prime Minister's spokesperson has just released a statement just a few moments ago saying that 13 Islamist plots and 4 far-right plots have successfully been foiled in the UK over the last year. The current security level in the UK is at severe. Should it be raised to critical when you're talking about this number of plots?
I mean, I think that we have to be careful about sort of raising. I mean, the idea of raising the threat level is in response to a kind of immediate threat. So at the moment it's said it's severe. Severe means that the authorities expect that an attack is highly likely. And that is reflected then in the posture that you'll see sort of across the security services, the police, who will all be, who will therefore respond in a certain sort of way. If you move it up to critical, you're ramping up the threat picture and saying that an attack is imminent, so that there's something which might happen in the immediate future. And that, of course, requires a very different response. Now, I don't think we're at that level at the moment. What we're seeing at the moment is that there's been a noticeable change in the kind of threat picture that we see. Whereas previously you had a threat picture that was dominated by, large-scale network plots, which result in the sorts of attacks that we saw in London in 2005 or we saw in Paris in 2015. What we see now is instead lots of these individuals who sort of latch onto the ideology. In some cases are actually connected to groups, in other cases are not, and do these very kind of low-tech, low-level incidents where they will sort of swipe or attack a large institution or attack ordinary citizens around them. And when that's the kind of threat picture that you're looking at, and I think if you look back at the roster of plots that I think you've just alluded to in that sort of official statement that have been disrupted over the past year, most of them are of that sort of caliber and of that sort of nature. And so the question is it appropriate to have your entire security apparatus ramped up as though it was expecting a large-scale terrorist incident imminently in response to what is essentially a series of, pinprick incidents which will cause misery to the individuals who are specifically involved in them, but aren't necessarily the sort of strategic threat you're talking about when you're thinking about keeping your threat level up to critical on a sort of permanent basis.
Raffaello Pantucci, thank you very much.
Thank you.